It has been well over 1 month since we've had any classic IndyCar Series action. In fact, the last time we raced was June 27th at Richmond, the first of the Oval Triple Crowns in the series. Now, we're back at Michigan for an extremely enticing event, 200 laps, 400 miles. It is the second Oval Triple Crown of the season, and what a way to come back into it. I am Dylan Boyle, joined alongside Justin Prince. Justin, I know we're looking for some excitement in this race today.
It's going to be an exciting race because this is a track with a lot of history when it comes to this type of car, dating back to the 1990s all the way to the late 2000s. But this is also a circuit that will challenge the endurance of our competitors because it will end up being, in some cases, groupings of cars going back and forth with the packs, but also trying to make sure you stay clean and trying to find the right strategy is also going to be very critical here at a track such as Michigan with the multiple lines that can come into play.
As we see on the screen, the schedule for the remainder of this IndyCar series, the classic IndyCar series. Sonoma in 2 weeks, and then we have Chicagoland, Mid-Ohio, Road America, and Indianapolis. A great way to wrap up this season, and I'll tell you what, Michigan is going to be quite the exciting bit. Now we look at the race information. Of course, this track, 2 miles, 18 degrees of banking on either side of the track. It's going to be 200 laps. Pit window is 46 laps. That's when we're going to see cars need to come down into pit lane. But the question is, will we even see drivers last that long on a green flag run? This is the first time since 2016 that these drivers have come to this track. So it's definitely been a long time coming. Of course, with the race information, we see all of the drivers getting ready for some warm-up starts. Justin, I know the starts are going to be an interesting thing to see. I'm sure they're going to be a wild one here.
Absolutely, especially with the potential of wheel spin. That's going to be very critical for these drivers to keep in mind.
Well, we're going to take a little look on board with a lap around the track.
The end of July means the end of the summer break, and Michigan International Speedway is the venue for Round 7 of the Classic IndyCar Series. And keeping with the theme of the CIS, drivers will be racing on the older non-repaved version. A bit of a sister track to the now-defunct Texas World Speedway and the inspiration for Auto Club Speedway, Michigan is a goldmine of IndyCar history. An IndyCar was the first car to ever turn an official timed qualifying lap at Michigan, that being the San Diego Steel Products Chinook Roadster driven by Al Smith. The track became notorious for its danger and high speeds, and in the first 20 years of the track's history, Merle Bettenhausen, A.J. Foyt, Poncho Carter, Derek Daly, Bobby Rahal, and Mario Andretti all had major accidents at the speedway. The most famous incident, however, came from the infamous crash before the start of the 1996 US 500, an incident that would forever hang over the Champ Car World Series. This high-speed and historic locale will see drivers needing a quick wake-up call following the summer break. Let's take a ride on board with Joshua Chin to see the ins and outs of this historic circuit. Being one of the fastest ovals in the United States, you better believe we're going to be flat out here. You see in 5th gear, set up here in race setup, so 6 is going to be a draft gear. In towards 1 and 2, you see drift all the way up to the wall, then using as minimal steering input as possible all the way down to that white line and off on a long back straightaway. Remember, this is going to be on the older non-repaved version, so tire wear is going to be very important here for these drivers as they head now down in towards turn 3, and again, all the way down to that inside line. Maybe a little bit high here for Josh, but arcing all the way back out to the middle of the track. You don't need to run all the way up to the wall, and then up against the inside line down the front straightaway to keep the trip to the start-finish as short as possible, and that's a quick lap around Michigan. With high speeds and a tendency to generate pack racing, Michigan is going to be a great way for both drivers and fans to get back into the swing of classic IndyCar Series action.
That's been a look around this 2-mile D-shaped oval. It definitely presents an interesting challenge, and it's not like your average, I guess you could say, 2-mile oval, but everyone in warm-ups is just settling down. It's just about time to get to the starting grid for this 200-lap race. Starting on pole and big for his hopes of making it in the championship standings, Willie Schwalbauer joined alongside Josh Baird. Bessa Ila Olila is going to be starting third with Logan Simmons in row 2. AJ Musselman, Robert Groscher are going to be starting in row 3, 2.5 tenths off the pace. Hans Pickenen, Ethan Agate, Andrew Wood, Art McEwen, they take the top 10, Justin.
In 11th position, it's Jonathan Diggs starting alongside the King of Chins, Joshua Chin, to round out your top 12 with Martin June in 13th position. Hauser will start in 14th position with Neil McBride in 15th. Andrew Aiken starts 16th. Randy Shoemake was quick in practice. He's 17th with Franz Josip Strom in 18th position. Rounding out your top 20, it's a familiar face who will be in that 19th position. Devon Slacker and Lewis LaVille rounds out your top 20, Dylan.
And we've just got a few more. Alex Crawford, Jamie Wilson, and Jan Hoffman. Hoffman, who did not take any qualifying laps, and obviously he is the last winner here from this series when they did go to Richmond. But it feels so long since we've actually had some racing. It's been too long, in my opinion. It's awesome to get these cars back out on track, and a little look at those championship standings never hurt anybody. Looking at it, we've got Lucas LaVille, who is going to be at the top of the standings in this race. We're looking at, Vesa is still in pit lane, so he's going to be starting there. We do have a few penalties, a few grid penalties in this race, Justin, and I know that it's obviously going to take a few drivers out of it. Jan Hoffman is starting from the rear of the grid, hence why he did not take any qualifying laps. Would have been nice practice, but hey, it's Michigan, sometimes ovals. You don't necessarily need all the practice in the world. Some of it comes down to luck. Obviously, we don't have all the drivers who would be getting penalties to start from the rear of the grid, Dave Lodel and Philippe Lambert. So, we are going around turn 3. Justin, one word to describe what this race is going to entail.
Wildness is probably a word I can think to describe it, because we're going to see a lot of 2-3 wide action, a lot of swap drafting, all going to be very critical here for this race.
The pace car goes down pit lane. Willie Schwalbauer goes early. We are underway here at Michigan, 200 laps in the second Triple Crown race of the season. Everyone single file. No one trying to make moves. The first driver you see make a move is Art McEwen, back in 9th place, is getting passed by, looks like, Joshua Chin, already trying to make his way up the field. At the end of lap 1, it's going to be Schwalbauer leading it, Josh Baird, Logan Simmons behind.
Nice clean start for our competitors, and it's going to be interesting how some of these drivers utilize the various lines. Andrew Wood, for example, is one of the drivers you see in the upper corner of your screen trying to utilize the lines to the bottom of the racetrack. The rest of these competitors, though, look very content, it seems, up at the front at least. Just try and save a little bit on fuel, try to make sure they hit their marks in terms of their mileage, and are not willing to get that major run quite yet to get to the point.
I mean, this is a very, very long race. These drivers don't want to burn out anything too soon. They don't want to get themselves in an uncomfortable situation where they're forced to make a mistake. That could be detrimental to not only the flow of this race, but for a driver's championship chances. Joshua Chin is all by himself in right now 9th place. He's watching as the pack ahead. The first 8 drivers, I should say, are all just driving in a row. Schwalbauer is going to come down and lead lap 2, nothing's really changing up front. I think everyone's just content to stay behind, like you were saying, Justin.
Just getting into a rhythm is key, but the one driver as talked about moments ago who has been willing to make moves, Andrew Wood, already up 3 positions, will be up higher possibly if he didn't clip the apron a couple laps ago. Right now, he's boxed in his position at the moment, just waiting in line, trying to utilize a lane lower than the rest of the field and trying to get some clean air to the front wing.
I mean, that's going to use up a lot of tire early on. Do you think it's a good strategy, Justin?
That was something we were talking with that is going to be a concern, is going to be the tire wear, because with the legacy version of Michigan International Speedway, of course, prior to the repave, it did burn up a lot of tires. So that's something absolutely that could be a risky thing. If you feel like track position is going to be more valuable than tire wear, absolutely try it. But at the same time, the tire wear is going to be very vital in the second half of the race to avoid pushing up the track.
That'll be something to watch for the duration of this race. For now, it's still status quo up front. Joshua Chin is now being chased by Tristan Hauser, who has moved himself from 14th place to 10th place in just a matter of 5 laps.
Interesting charge indeed for Hauser among those competitors. Jamie Wilson also up 4 positions. But the rest of these competitors all just staying lined up at 218 miles an hour. Looks like at the very least, AJ Musselman in that 4th position is trying something a little bit different. He keeps on flaring out towards the 3rd and 4th lines. You just can't build up enough momentum for that to work, though, to try and get it side by side with Logan Simmons.
Well, Musselman is going a lane higher than all of these drivers, trying to find some momentum, comes back down, has some speed, gets in line, and you can see he's closing in, but it looked like he just took his foot off the throttle real quick. It's almost like bump drafting, but obviously, if you bump drafted in these Indy cars, that would not work out well for you. Looking right behind, Robert Groscher went a lane higher, right behind Musselman, and now he's going to be swamped and swallowed up by Andrew Wood.
See that swap completed now into turn 1 indeed, and it's just as simple as carrying too much momentum and burning up those front tires around this racetrack. That's going to be very critical. And the main thing to think about too here is if the 65 keeps on leading laps here with all of this, that's going to burn more fuel, Dylan, in the long term, because it's about a 2-lap difference from being front of the field to packs such as this that are starting to break out.
Oh, 2 by 2 right behind Schwalbauer. Now this is racing right here. It looks like Josh Baird will keep his 2nd position now as he comes back in line with Schwalbauer. And now it's only Andrew Wood. Wood is forcing it right now. I think he really does want to get back up into maybe a 1st place run right now. It looks like because he's trying everything so differently, he's being a little bit more aggressive.
Yeah, noticed that right from the get-go with some of the moves he's been making, trying to utilize that 1st line right below the seam. And right now, at the very least, he's got the speed within these first 9 or 10 laps to be able to do so. The problem is getting fully clear to complete the pass, and AJ Musselman not making it easy there for a good lap or so. Wood finally able to clear on by to make it a +5.
+5 for Wood, one of the best in the race so far. We've got a few other +5s, Niall McBride, Andrew Aiken. Those are 2 drivers that have made their way up from 15th and 16th place, respectively, to go into 10th and 11th. Lap 10 of 200. You know, sometimes, or lap 11 that is, we've completed 10. Sometimes a lot of drivers like to look at this race as if it's a sprint. That's when we get incidents, issues. Andrew Wood, well, I don't think he's looking at it right now like it is an endurance race, as we do see positions gained. 5 is the top, or it looks like Wilson also is going up 5 positions as well. So 5 is that magic number right now. Sometimes we see drivers go for a sprint race almost, kind of take on these endurance races. They just want to get out front quickly and stay there. It's a different strategy, though, when you just want to chill back and wait to see what happens. Do you think there's a pro versus a larger pro list versus con list to any one of those strategies, Justin?
Well, the pro list, if you get the track position and you're able to stick up, there is. you become one of the front runners. You position yourself well to contend with the race lead and put yourself in a strong position if you, say, get a caution flag for a restart scenario. But the con of all that, too, is you have to consider this. If you battle too long or too hard like these drivers, for example, we just seen, then you lose a lot of time. That's why the pack ninth on back, compared to these front runners who have been running single file, have already lost about 1.25 seconds. So if you end up trying to race hard in these opening laps, it can cost you a lot of time and could hurt you if you don't get that track position.
We're going 3 wide in the front of the pack for the first time. Schwalbauer, he is having to watch as Andrew Wood tries to power underneath him. Will he clear? No, he won't. And look, there's a run right behind. Logan Simmons is going to force it into the middle. They're 3 wide going into turn 3. Simmons is edging ahead, but who's going to come out in front out of turn 4? Oh no, they touch. Andrew Wood, Logan Simmons, they keep it on track though. They keep going, and it's going to be Andrew Wood who leads this lap. That could have been disastrous.
Especially with side pod contact like that. That could have been a huge one at the front of the field, and that's another con of battling like that early on in this race. You get yourself in an incident, it changes the complexion of the race majorly. More 3 wide now in the second pack, and all that checking up allowed them to gain a little bit of time back.
How long can they do this before we see anything happen?
Well, it depends really on the drivers because they have been razor close when it comes to tire-to-tire contact, even before that side pod contact a lap ago. So in our words, it all depends on how hard the drivers fight and how much give or take they give here.
Speaking about give and take, Andrew Wood was just coming up the track just a tad, and he's going to have to deal with getting swarmed himself. You know, whenever you attempt a slide job, it could come back to bite you if you can't clear the driver. Wood is getting close to the other tires of these drivers.
And this is one of the risks, right, of taking that bottom line. From what we've seen underneath the first scene, you push up the track. What goes down the circuit must eventually come up on corner exit. And Wood is now feeling the effects of being squished on down. This is now going to cost him a lot of time in spots.
Wood is definitely feeling those effects. He's trying to run the bottom line. However, remember, we were talking about it's going to wear the tires down a lot more than any other line on this track. He was in first place. Now he's fallen all the way back to 5th as we begin lap 18.
And it's not just that, just running up on the higher lines, you can get a better run and better momentum coming on corner exit to be able to launch yourself almost like a slingshot down the straightaway. And for Wood, he didn't have that ability to do so with him being side by side on the bottom of the racetrack. He was forced to essentially lift off the throttle to make sure there was no contact, and now he's paying the price for that, getting shuffled out there. With all this fighting too, remember that second pack we talked about? A couple drivers were checked up for about 6th and 7th position, and now those competitors are now allowing the draft to be picked up by the 9th on back group.
Was just going to mention that as well, Justin, and it's important for a lot of these championship competitors. LaVille leads Ethan Agan by 20 points. Joshua Chin is behind LaVille by 48 points. Marshall Stanley, 50. Schwalbauer, 54. I mean, these drivers can still very well win the championship. They need a little bit of luck. They need some performance, and obviously with this second pack now coming back into that first group, we're going to see some more infighting here.
Yeah, I think we're going to see that start to pick up a little bit, but the main thing to consider here, Dylan, is once you get the tires to wear out here, it can get harder and harder to try and battle side by side, especially in the corners, because tires are rubbered in, seeing a fair bit of wear. And it gets to where you try different lines like Wood is with the cleaner air. You have to be able to search around if you want to get these runs. And it's going to be so tricky for these drivers to get themselves going. One driver, I think, had an issue down the backstretch just now. Jamie Wilson has just towed his car to the pit lane.
Oh no, that is a huge error. We'll have to see what happened. He just came all the way up, hit the wall, lost it a few times. We'll catch it in the replay here. Single car incident. It could have been multiple cars. I think he was racing right alongside the championship leader in LaVille, unless I am mistaken.
Yeah, that could have been big. Those drivers were already losing a fair bit of time after all the shuffling. And you're at this track. If it's underneath the white line, it does not trigger the caution flag. Keep in mind, this is the track where the longest green flag run in series history came from. 167 laps. These drivers have done a very significantly fine job to be able to keep it green so far, even with that one incident we just seen.
I like that usage of the term significantly fine, because there have been some incidents that could have resulted in a yellow flag, a caution to come out here, but they've done pretty well at making sure that they don't get too out of shape to bring out that yellow flag. Logan Simmons still up front of the pack, Schwabauer in behind. Now remember, Schwabauer for the first half of this run has been in first, using more fuel than the rest of the drivers. Now he's going to get a turn to stay in behind and save some of that gas.
It's exactly what I think he needed for his strategy, to think big picture here. A couple of the drivers were joking about how he's normally stronger on the road courses, but he's been very impressive. He was one of the quickest drivers in practice overall, the only driver, in fact, in practice to reach the 32.9s. Just in qualifying, as talked about, and impressive for him overall, to say the very least, as we see some of the other drivers starting to shuffle a little bit. Musselman is among those drivers sliding back now with the tire wear.
Do you see the two drivers that I'm looking at? Joshua Chin, Andrew Aiken. Chin up 7 spots, Aiken up 10. They are catching this from pack, and they're going to compete for first place in just a lap or two.
And that's incredible, to say the very least. And it also shows the patience Chin in particular has had to be able to find his spots, get himself to this main pack, and oh, by the way, and had some cleaner air as the lead cards group. That's going to affect him fuel strategy-wise, of course, but Chin is in that spot where he can push a little bit here to try and gain some ground, trying to utilize that higher groove on the racetrack to get cleaner air and pull back down to get the draft.
We are an eighth of the way through this race. Lots of racing action still to come here. It's a pretty interesting start so far. I think what we've been seeing a lot of has been drivers trying to race pretty calmly, but then you have a situation like Andrew Wood, who wants to come and make his presence felt going into first. Obviously, that worked out for just a little bit for him before his tires said, well, maybe we shouldn't be screaming ourselves down into the bottom lane. Joshua Chin is now with this top group, as is Andrew Aiken. They're now going to try and fight to see where they can land. Now, Joshua Chin, remember, if we're looking at those championship standings right now, he has a lot to come back from. 48 points is the difference between he and LaVille. LaVille was almost taken out right there in that incident with Jamie Wilson. And I'll tell you what, Justin, you want to stay back there if you're Lucas LaVille to keep yourself from getting in those incidents. That could have been absolutely costly.
It absolutely could, with that situation we looked at before. So it's going to be very critical. You want to win the championship, to keep your car clean. And the main thing to consider is Chin was very quick at Richmond. Chin was in a great spot much of the race. But the caution flags didn't fly the way he needed them to fall in that particular race, with the 38 points scored at Richmond. So it's going to be critical for him to score well in a race such as this here today.
23 cars entered into this race. 22 cars are on track right now, with the exception of Jamie Wilson. Obviously had that incident. And we could have had 40 cars up here. Could you imagine 40 cars in this field at Michigan all fighting it out with each other? That would have been absolutely immense. Would have been an interesting situation indeed. But I think when you have a smaller field right now, and it looks like we have another spin, by the way. Is that Jonathan Diggs? Caution is out. Justin, you picked up on that one. What happened?
He just lost it through 1 and 2 and really wiggled, trying to run about a lane and a half from the yellow line. Take a look at the RaceSpotTV replay. Watch this, because he drifted the entire length of the corner, Dylan. This spin lasted for a good mile with how loose he got trying to run on that seam lost the back end, and then fought for a good half of the back straightaway to save it.
It's almost like he didn't realize that he was in a slide. You got to realize when you're in that slide, when the back end starts to come out a little bit. And hold the brakes. All right, we're good there. We're good. And then I believe he slides again. I'm not sure if I was seeing things, but he comes back out on track and then takes a little slide right there just for fun. You know, not losing any more positions right there. But that could have been a lot more costly and could have been a situation like Wilson. He kept it out of the wall, kept it out of everything, so we get our first caution of the day.
It's going to make things interesting with the strategy, I think, for later on. That's something a lot of these drivers are going to have to think about for their fuel marks, but expecting just about everybody to come down to this lane to be able to get service here.
Don't see anyone who is staying out right now, so that means we're going to have a full field down in pit lane. Are there going to be issues? There usually are a few of them, so we'll see what happens. But Logan Simmons leads the way down into pit lane. His pit box is the fourth one, obviously. He started fourth on the grid, comes off the jacks, and he's going to get back into first spot on this restart. Schwalbauer is just barely in third. Josh Baird gets into second, so that's your top three runners coming out of pit lane, Justin.
A solid pit stops for Baird. Keep in mind, he had a 0.7 of a second quicker pit stop in his box. Some of the drivers taking as long as 9.4 seconds. But calculations, this is going to be critical to think about for the big picture on how this plays out for the later stages of this race. So that's going to be a major talking point for some of these competitors.
So as we take a look at Willie Schwalbauer, you know, Schwalbauer is in one of those positions, 54 points behind in the championship standings, where it's a little bit, he's definitely far back. He's going to need some luck, but so far he's done a very nice job of keeping it clean. And what do we have here? Some rear wing damage, and that's going to be very bad. Where did he get that from?
I think there may have been a stack up as the pit stops were going on and some of the drivers were exiting, and McBride's going to have to get that wing repaired because of that, because a few competitors who had various pit stops, and remember the 96 in particular, started off from the pit lane, got to the point where I think they stopped on the racetrack in the pit lane and had a 3-car stack up, I believe.
Well, we were talking about incidents potentially happening. That's going to be an incident that's going to plague him for the rest of this race. You know, we were talking about the record green flag run at 167 laps. Well, it looks like we're going to need to have that record run to even get to the end of this race.
It's going to be interesting to say the very least now in that situation. So now it's the matter of how this start fares out for our competitors. It's been entertaining so far, some of these moves, but this is going to help the caution flag in particular, drivers like Aiken, like Egan, like Musselman to try and gain some spots. When it comes to that 27, it's a plus 10, keep in mind, on the race, so a good chance for him to move forward. And Chin, I wouldn't be surprised see him trying to be fairly aggressive along with Wood off this restart, since they had some good short run pace.
Well, are you ready for this restart? I don't know if I am, because these drivers were showing themselves to be very, very race worthy at the end there when we got at the end of that green flag run. I think it's going to be a nice restart right here. Logan Simmons saw Willie Schwalbauer go very early as the pace car goes down into pit lane. Will Simmons wait? No, he will not. We're back underway here at Michigan.
Nice and clean on the launch by the entire field. Couple drivers jetting out towards the back. Other than that, no major wheel spin, no major troubles. Now it's the matter of how these drivers repack with one another.
I'm really interested to see how McBride will do with that damage. I think he's all the way back in the pack, and that's going to really hurt his chances of advancing at all in this race. I mean, a rear wing is not necessarily something you can get repaired.
Yeah, it's still crumpled up. In fact, he was able to get the front wing repaired from the stack up we were referring to. It's what Hauser is now out of the race of currently as a result of. But it's now the matter of how things fared up in the front, because things are compressed again, and some of the drivers are trying to utilize the higher lines to get some clean air and get some momentum for this backstretch.
Well, this is exactly what we left the green flag running with. Joshua Chin in 5th, trying to find a way to get through this pack of 4 drivers. Andrew Wood, now with fresh tires, is going to try to go down the inside again. He has no draft help, though, down there, but Joshua Chin comes down a bit. Maybe he's going to use him for some draft help before he comes back up top and uses that normal lane. But Wood is really getting the speed and momentum down there. I didn't think he would get that much speed off the corner.
And keep in mind, he's a little higher up in the running order compared to the first time he tried using that bottom line. So there's a decent shot that Wood might be able to get himself clear with this if he can get it done quick enough. The tough part is going to be clearing by Simmons.
I don't think he's going to have too much of a problem doing that right here. I think he's going to get it down into turn 1, and look at that, Joshua Chin, he sees what Wood's doing, and he's going to try to do the same exact thing, going into 1 around 2. Wood is not clear. It looked like he did not get the run he needed down below, and he's going to lose out here on the backstretch.
And this is going to be intriguing. Again, these drivers working together who are lined up at the bottom. Team Chimera, as they try and build up that momentum together. What a close call there for Wood, though, to slide up.
Oh, was he clear? I think he hesitated a little bit and made sure he wasn't clear. That was a risky-looking maneuver nonetheless. Wood still down the inside of Simmons. He's got his front wheels just below the rear wheels of Simmons, while Baird has the front wheels right in line with the rear wheels of Wood, but that has all changed up. Wood has fallen back a place, is going to have to compete with Baird, or excuse me, that's Josh Baird for another position in 2nd place. Man, these drivers are racing hard right now, and we're not even at the quarter point of this race.
And just finished up the calculations we were talking about with the fuel numbers still and how close it might get as well for some of these drivers. Something to consider. If you're able to reach 45, the next few stints, you may be able to get to lap 156 and get to the end on gas. In other words, if you are able to get this race to go green to a record run, it becomes a 3-stopper. So that's something a lot of these drivers have to start thinking about possibly too. If you can extend it to 46, that helps you for that last stint.
You said the record was 167, correct?
Yes.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but they're going to have to go 168 to finish this race. Okay, so they break that record by 1 lap. I think that's going to serve a definite purpose in the narrative of this race. If we do get close to that, that would be impressive. Battle for 7th right now. Musselman in 7th place. Ethan Agan, the 2nd place man in the championship, trying to get by him for 7th place. All of these drivers are really fighting hard right now, and this first group has broken away from the 2nd group that is currently being led by Musselman.
Yeah, it's the same situation as before, where these drivers battle a little bit to start off the run, don't have the best of launches, and now as a result, they're losing 2 to 3 tenths a lap to the top 6. It just seems Musselman has to lift a little bit more compared to some of the others to make sure that car rotates. And it's getting a little bit snaky behind him, though the 8 just about scraped the wall with his right side tires.
Tires don't enjoy being scraped up against the wall, especially when you need all the rubber indeed to get the most amount of grip on this track. A very bumpy Michigan International Speedway. And so it looks like Martin June just went really high up the track and almost got himself into the wall.
And that nab machine getting really close, to say the very least. Martin June, or somebody known for his road course racing abilities, having some strong pace in this race so far with the +3. Watch who's falling on behind, though. LaVille, who didn't have the best of qualifying runs from 20th starting position, is currently still progressing forward with all of this, right on behind the draft of June.
Look at these cars just coming down the back stretch. Look how fast they are going right past the 3M signs right there. Some beautiful shots. Oh my goodness. crowd enjoying this, virtual crowd, I should say. You know, sometimes I always think, what if we had a virtual reality camera in the stands, and then you'd be able to enjoy a race from the stands like you were actually there? You ever try that, Justin?
I haven't thought about it before. I've tried it with the press box once or twice. That's hard to do, obviously, to set up properly, but never in the stands. That's actually would be very fun to see the reactions of the crowd on you. Hear the sound of the crowd scream and cheer whenever they see the action pass on by them. Keep in mind, in real life, the fan experience here at Michigan is thrilling, to say the very least, with these stands. It's so exciting to watch a race here. So exciting to be able to park your car around the grass in the area, here are the Irish Hills of Michigan, be able to walk your way from the campgrounds down around turns 2 towards turn 1 to the fan area that's set up around the front straightaway. It's such a beautiful racetrack, and it's changed a lot over the years, of course, with the grandstands in turns 3 and 4 in particular, but it's one that's brought a lot of experience to fans all across real world and sim racing.
You ever come here before?
Several times. Hence why I know the experience.
I was curious if that was just secondhand knowledge or firsthand experience right there. That's awesome to hear, Justin. I think you've just sold me on having to go to Michigan for a race. Hey, maybe one day we'll see IndyCar come back to Michigan. That would be quite the experience, although I'm not sure that it would happen.
And keep in mind, too, one of the things people don't realize is with Michigan International Speedway is with how close it is to the Canadian border by about an hour or so, many fans from Canada also flock to Michigan International Speedway for whenever there's a race here. So there is a lot of fans from both sides of the border who fill the grandstands for each of the events here.
That's something to think about going forward, I guess. And for any Canadian viewers out there, that's another thought for you. Justin, obviously, is from Canada up there. And I'm sure you've done the trip more times than you can count at the moment. But AJ Musselman, we're watching with him right now as he's right behind Ethan Agan. Their position swapped the last time around this 2-mile circuit. And it's been exciting racing, but at the same time, I think these drivers know what is at stake and how long this race still has to come.
Yeah, I think right now they're just trying to pace themselves, be patient, get themselves into a rhythm. And I have to wonder, with the drivers running a couple tenths slower, if they're trying to think about that fuel mileage a little bit as well that we were referring to with how tight it could be. Because with draft, you can potentially hit that 46 mark to be able to help you stretch it further by an additional 3 laps total and help yourself in those stints. All that math is going to be very critical for some of these competitors. I think right now drivers like Musselman are thinking big picture here. Yes, it's losing them time of the track, but if the air competitors can't reach that mark or have to save during the last run, then these drivers are in a decent spot to be able to go full push to the closing stages.
Somebody who was hanging all the way in the back for the first stint of this race was Lucas Laville. He's gained 10 positions from 20th. Now he is sitting in 10th position, right behind these drivers that we're watching on board with right now. And again, you have to wonder, is it just about keeping yourself clean? No one expects this race to go 168 laps till the end. And if it does not, well, then these drivers have made potentially a smart decision depending where an incident would come from. If it does go that entire way, well, then you just got a bad roll of the dice.
Well, that's the thing, Dylan. You always have to plan for if the race goes green, right? You can't necessarily bank on, oh, there's going to be a caution on lap 77 or lap 162. You can't bank on that. You have to plan things out as if it's going to go forward in green. And in some cases, the roll of the dice works out perfectly. In our cases, it absolutely can bite you in turn. But that's just how strategy comes into play for some of these groups and some of these drivers. It's so important to get that preparation to know, okay, this is what plan we have to go on now. What do we do to execute that said game plan?
Well, sometimes, I mean, you're absolutely right about that. You cannot plan for a yellow flag to come out. You always have to plan for the rest of the race to go green. I do think that, however, in this situation, I think drivers like LaVille, as we see, a driver just peeled off to go into the pits. I'm not sure if that was a driver on the lead lap or it was Niall McBride. So that's who went down pit lane. He's a lap down. He's not finding himself any help. That front wing is still damaged right there, and he slides into his pit box. Oh, man, that's oh, he hit the wall there. He's not going to be able to get the left side tires, and it's a tow, it looks like, right there. So, unfortunate for him, he's going to try and get everything fixed up right there. By the way, Tristan Hauser has disconnected from the race around 20 laps ago. I'm not sure if we noted that. We did. He was involved in that incident, which was a very unfortunate thing because he was one of the faster cars, I think, once we were under green.
Yeah, he was in a decent spot at the time. It just came down to, again, that stack up that we were referring to down the pit lane that ended up hurting him. And essentially, when you crash into the inside wall in that case, which is unfortunately the situation for him, it ends up obviously putting you to a tow situation, puts you right behind the 8 ball, and it's going to be hard to get laps back. So it can be, how do I put this? Very disorientating and very hurtful, so to speak, to be a lap down. It can be difficult to get that lap back here at this racetrack.
And we're not talking anything about lucky dogs or the free pass because that does not exist in this series. That's a NASCAR factoid that they have in there. They'd have to only get that lap back by beating out everyone and basically being the leader of all the packs here and getting back onto the lead lap, or B, getting a wave around everyone else goes into the pits. Oh, Simmons, did he tap the wall? It looked like he's going to find his way out of there unscathed, but it looked like he just got a very big scare.
I don't think he tapped the wall, but Wood, you seen too, nearly tapped wheels on top of things with the cars side by side in Weibauer in that side by side, prying him off the wall. And it looks like these drivers, at the very least, are waiting for opportunities to peel each other off that wall. Here's what we were seeing just moments ago when it came down to the back straightaway for the battle for third position. And this is very well executed, but was very tight by the time they got to the back straightaway. You see the run being built up by these drivers up to the corner. Wood says, you know what? I'm just going to try and carry as much throttle as I can for corner entry, take away the top line, and you've seen it right there too. Simmons, indeed, I think just about scraped the edge of the safer barrier. It's in end of the safer barrier.
You know, I do wonder about drivers who raced in both the safer barrier era and the non-safer barrier era. They've had to sort of adjust, and we see it right. Oh man, that is too close for comfort right there. But the drivers who raced in both eras, I almost think about, they've needed to change their corner entry and exits because the tracks got a little bit thinner.
One of the best examples I could think of on the iRacing service was, if you remember, Dover ended up being one of those tracks that had safer barriers added around the front straightaway and back straightaway about a year or so ago. As, hold on, the leaders are checking up hard.
Oh boy, that could have been very costly for all the drivers in that front pack. If I'm Joshua Chin sitting back there, or Willie Schwalbauer, I'm saying I want to try and get out in front as quickly as possible, so I'm not worrying about these drivers. Willie Schwalbauer almost getting a hit from behind by Andrew Wood. Schwalbauer is really pinching Wood now. They come apart, though, as they go a lane difference between them. Wood got loose down low. He tries to check up. He's still loose, and he's going to lose out on a lot of positions. Joshua Chin is going to pass on the outside. Wow, what replays we have here.
What in the world happened to Simmons is my thought, because he got close to the safer barrier again on the corner exit at turn 2, but he just went from 213 miles an hour straight to 208, like he lifted down the middle of the straightaway, like right here. Just slows down, and no one's expecting that. They nearly run into the back end of him in the Dave.com machine.
I mean, I can't think of anything except maybe a spasm in his right foot right there. I really can't think of any reason why you would just slow down there. And Simmons, who was comfortably in first for a time being, almost got swallowed up by Josh Baird, who was right in second. Schwalbauer now is in third, and there's a little bit of separation between he and Andrew Aitken, who has come from 16th position up 12 spots, along with Joshua Chin. Those two drivers are inseparable.
Absolutely. It's been tight amongst those competitors. Should be worth noting that here Stefan Schlacker has had to come down the pit lane for an additional stop of more than 1 minute. He's now leading the second pack of cars, in fact, letting some of them go after his problems.
Some crazy action going on here. Lap 62 of 200. Chin almost getting into it with Andrew Aitken. Come on, boys. It's okay. Let's settle it down here. Still a lot of racing to go.
What did I say? Craziness, I think, was the word in terms of the phrasing.
That.
Yes. Well, we're seeing exactly that, Dylan.
Oh my goodness, that's exactly what we're seeing, and some of it's like, all right, guys, let's calm it down. Still a lot of racing action left. Currently, we've got 19 drivers on the lead lap, and that could go down a little bit more if we see some more action like that. Joshua Chin has fallen off a little bit of this lead battle as he got by Andrew Aitken. Aitken's fallen back to Chin just a tad, but not too much that a little bit of draft can't help. Andrew Wood is now trying to attack Andrew Aitken, so the battle of the Andrews happening as they cross that start-finish line. They get close together. I'll tell you what, Wood has been the epicenter of close calls in this race so far.
He's not been afraid to carry a lot of speed through the corner this time, giving a lot of space. Aitken to make sure he doesn't drift up that time, but that's going to allow him to get the run back. But this lead group is absolutely separated about a little bit and is starting to break apart from the hugs and groupings that we've seen. It's looking like it's turned from a 6-car breakaway into a 3-car breakaway.
That's definitely what it's looked like. You saw at turns 3 and 4, Aitken kind of chopped off the front air from Andrew Wood's car, made Wood slide up, and it helped Aitken a lot. So aero dependency is going to be huge. Martin June is going down into pit lane. This does not seem to be a scheduled stop.
Yeah, that's only 34 laps into the run, so something going on with him right now. We'll have to see. I think he may have hit the wall, possibly. We'll have to see, because this seems to be a bit of an extended service here.
Yeah, we'll have to find out what happened with Martin June, because he's going to go a lap down here. So now 18 drivers on the lead lap as Logan Simmons goes by him around half a lap ago. And it looks like he jumped out of the car real quick. By the way, Niall McBride has disconnected from the race around 14 or so laps ago following his incidents earlier in the run. I believe that again was on the pit stop, the incident with he and Tristan Hauser. So Schwalbauer, Baird, I should say, and Simmons, 3-2-1. That is your top 3 as we speak. Joshua Chin hovering a little bit farther back, but he's still within a place that he could get a draft and a run and get going and make it a top 4 battle.
That's the bright side for him right now. He's still that buffer car, essentially, between the two different groupings, and it could essentially close back up fairly soon. The intriguing mark's going to be, though, how it fares out for when these drivers have to come in for pit stops, because a few of these drivers did practice that, how far they can push it to get to the commitment cone, as well as with other cars around them in final practice. And for some, they sent it in deep.
Aitken, I think he just hit the wall right in front of Andrew Wood. I'm not sure if he did, but it was a really wild moment.
I think you're right. He may have tapped it with the right side tires. Let's take a look at the replay here, as this is indeed with Aitken and his machine. And watch for the corner exit. It's been like this for a few different drivers so far throughout this race, where they try and carry a ton of momentum, Some of them going down to that first seam area, and bam, you end up pushing back up the racetrack on the corner exit. It's happened to a couple competitors, and you can see that steering just a touch bit offset after that.
And that's going to really be a big effect for the remainder of this race. We still have a lot of action left, so really unfortunate for Aiken right there, and we'll have to see what he does with it. Joshua Chin has joined this battle for the lead of the race. He's now in, well, he's been in 4th place, but he's now only a 10th off of now Willie Schwabauer. Forget about that 10th. It's getting even closer by the millisecond because he's in that draft. The Michigan draft, it is so powerful. But if you are basically getting the same draft from 2nd to 3rd, 2nd to 1st, 4th to 3rd, then the only driver that's not benefiting as much as the others is 1st place.
All that again with the fuel mileage in particular, with how tight it's going to be. So for Simmons, you have to wonder if the thought process may be okay. Well, the next stint, does he try and save a little bit? Does he elect to ride behind? Does he try and be careful with that? That's all going to be considered for the next window, because we're already a couple laps away from pit stops, Dylan, is the thing I'm trying to emphasize here. Because we're already approaching 41 laps into the stint this time.
41 laps this time. So, who goes first?
Well, you'd have to think with the lead car being Simmons this entire run, that burns more fuel trying to keep up that draft. So he might be one of the first drivers to peel on down. Now it becomes the question of, does anyone else elect to say, you know what, I'm going to risk coming in with them and try and keep his draft to see if we can break up into a smaller pack afterwards with the undercut. It's a bit risky, though, with the fuel mileage, as we talked about.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a bit risky there, especially with losing the draft if you're the first driver to come down. I don't know if Simmons really has a choice in the matter unless other drivers go down in the undercut. Maybe we start to hear on the radio that the 92 is going to come in very soon. Not sure yet, though. That's going to be something we're going to have to listen out for.
If one driver has peeled down along the front stretch, Robert Grosser outside of that. Everyone else is still pushing on forward. There is that 2 machine. He was towards the back end of the field. It's been an up and down day after good qualifying, but we've seen from how close some of the battling was in that first stint. He ended up losing a lot of time as a result of that. Got shuffled to the 2nd pack, and the restart shuffled to the 3rd pack. It's gone backwards for the number 2 all throughout some of these incidents and some of these close calls.
Well, Robert Grosser is just on the outside looking into these championship standings, 67 points off of Lucas LaVille. I think LaVille is coming down into pit lane, excuse me, as well as Ethan Agan, Art McEwen. Everyone's coming down now except for those leaders. Simmons is coming in at the end of the lap.
And he's in a good spot because he was able to extend it to 45, so Simmons doing a good job, it looks like, with the clean air to save. A lot of these air drivers doing so. It's going to be close, though, as the caution is out.
Oh, my goodness. This is going to mix up some of the field just a tad. All the drivers who were able to get into the pits, well, this is going to help them.
I think it was Jonathan Diggs, possibly, in the 04, as he's lost his front nose.
And it was coming, sorry to cut you off, it was coming down into pit lane where he touched the grass and just smacked himself into that outside safer barrier.
And I'm surprised here, he's using the apron in 3 and 4, and
that's a bad mistake.
Yeah, majorly bad mistake to decide to use that apron there.
Not only is it using the apron that's the bad thing, but he gets twice into the grass, and that could have ended the day for another driver right there. Was that looked like a teammate of Grosser's? I couldn't quite see who it was. Was it LaVille again?
It was close either way, but here's the thing. Drivers were told they were allowed to pit off of turn 4 in the briefing. They were told, for some, you could use the apron potentially for qualifying, but they didn't have to use that apron for the pit stop window. So, in our words, that is a major mistake have to utilize that apron there for pit stops when drivers are told you don't have to utilize it there.
Guess who's going to inherit the lead of this race? Lucas Laville. Or is he? Was he a lap down?
Yes.
Oh my goodness, okay, so completely disregard the dramatic explanation of who would be in the lead right there, because Laville went into the pits and he wasn't able to get out before going a lap down. So we're going to have to see if there's any shuffle there in terms of who is the leader of this race. Obviously, he's going to get the wave around, but so many drivers coming out, and it looks like the leader of the pack will be Simmons, but Baird loses a few spots. Chin goes into, I believe, third, with Andrew Aiken going into potentially fourth, but uh-oh. Did you see what I just saw from Andrew Aiken?
Not quite sure, but this is...
I think Aiken's going to get an end-of-line penalty. He went out into the track.
Oh, you're right. I think it came up a couple times, Dylan, in fact.
So that is just a mental mistake. Comes out of pit lane, everything is fine. Just needs to get in line. Kind of charges up right there, and penalty for you. Penalty for you. He keeps staying out there. Even more of a penalty. So that's just a mental mistake right there.
Yeah, that is a blue cone violation where, for those who are new to iRacing, if you cross the yellow line before where the blue cone is on the exit of turn 2, that is an end of longest line penalty for essentially coming up across the blend line. It helps prevent drivers from coming up right into the racing line, and that's going to lose them a ton of time as a result. In our news, Stefan Schlacker apparently turned his engine off by accident.
Oh, Stefan. I know he's listening to us right now. I hope he's enjoying the coverage he's getting from that. Turning the engine off. He's currently 3 laps down in pit lane. Jonathan Diggs also 3 laps down, but Diggs disconnected. So, Stefan, as long as you get out there, you got another position right there.
Yeah, this is turning into an interesting race, to say the very least, now with the strategy, with how things have fared out, but keep in mind, that scratches out that one fuel mark we were talking about before with if it stayed green. Now, it's the matter of, as a result of this, get yourself, at the very least, to lap 111 and to lap 156, you're good to go. So in our words, it very much simplifies the strategy, Dylan, and takes out a lot of the need to save if we were going to get a record run. But that's what can happen. You never know if a caution's going to come out. You never know if someone's going to make a mistake like that with the pit entry. And we've seen the mistake come into play that triggered this caution flag.
So not too much has shuffled up front. It's still going to be Logan Simmons leading the pack down into the start-finish straight. He's got the lead, started the race in 4th. He jumped early last time. He will jump at the green this time. We're back to racing in Michigan.
Nice clean start again from Simmons. Now it's the matter of how things can press back. The top 5 got a picturesque start. 6th on back, already more than a second behind.
What happened there? That was just a horrible restart from back there.
And AJ Musselman, I think it was just as simple as he did not go, and that, if you do not go, hurts everyone else as a result, because you have to be careful about jetting to the left before the line. Here you see Musselman. He just didn't get any torque or anything coming to the stripe.
Not at all. That's just, that's shocking right there. And then even farther back, everyone saw them just checking up, not going at the green, so they couldn't make a pass down the inside because everyone was lined up against the wall. So they also caught the badness of that restart. So, interesting. By the way, Joshua Chin is getting very racy. We're going 3 wide on the front stretch, and he's in the middle. This is some gutsy maneuvering. Will he go down the inside of Simmons? Will he make it? Gain of 4 positions in just a few hundred yards. He's into first place. That's a championship winning move right there.
What a beautiful maneuver by Chin, and part of the reason it worked, he was able to get some of the leeway from the drivers to his right, but also was able to get to the second line. That's been so very beneficial with the rubber buildup around this racetrack. Here is that maneuver, able to get the toe underneath the iconic machine down the front stretch. Then this is right about where normally we've seen drivers get pinched down towards the first line when they've attempted the lead. This time, though, he was able to go a little bit higher on the arc, force him up the track, keep himself above that first seam, and that helped him fully rotate on.
That was so impressive. The move of the race so far, indeed. So, Chin, now as the leader, has to deal with something he hasn't been used to in this race specifically. It's drivers in behind who have the draft off of Chin. There's nothing you can do about it if you're Joshua Chin. All you have to do is just try and keep your car out front, not put a foot wrong, and hope that the draft does not get too strong by the drivers in behind, because you're looking good for, well, till right now. Because it looks like Logan Simmons wants that lead back. He's going down the inside. Will he clear Chin? Not yet. He could maybe slide up there, but doesn't want to risk it too much. That's going to give Chin some momentum up top.
And Chin nearly knocked the wall down, trying to carry momentum to keep it side by side there, but Simmons just had the better line, and look at that. The iconic motorsports machine now able to leapfrog forward, and Chin nearly knocked the wall down again.
So Chin led a lap or two and then fell back very quickly. He's down into fourth, and right behind him is Andrew Wood. So Chin and Wood started the lap second and third. Now they're having to deal with fourth and fifth. Things can change quickly here.
Welcome to Michigan is the best thing I can say, with the effect of the draft, with the effect of some of the maneuvers. We were expecting it to get racy, and boy, is it getting racy with some of these competitors. But you can see what they're just starting to lift a little bit towards the end of the rev limiter to be able to save that touch bit of fuel, keeping it under 219 miles an hour or so down the straightaway.
You know, Stefan Slacher, he is currently 5 laps down, but he's still running out there. So we've got to give him credit. Even though he's some laps down, it's nice to see him out there running. Look at all of these drivers just fighting it all they've got at Michigan International Speedway. We're at lap 86 of 200. We're closing into that midway point. This is the battle for 6th position.
These drivers, again, have already lost 2 seconds to the competitors in front. It just seems like they just don't have that extra that they need to be able to keep up with the top 5 currently in terms of pace. Here's the telling sign. You've got a car with front wing damage who is a teammate to one of the drivers in the lead pack who is leading group number 2 and is still matching the lap times of the top 5.
Amazing. That's... You know, I do wonder if the longer we go in this run, if we're going to see drivers, again, kind of build back up that momentum in that second group and catch back up. I just don't see it happening unless there's more infighting between the drivers in front. Look at that entire crowd of cars in that second group and beyond. And then you see the first group up ahead. I mean, they're really going to have to get stacked up for this second group to catch up.
Exactly, and this is going to be a little bit frustrating for them indeed to try and figure out, okay, what do we need to find that extra bit of speed? Because they've had time to look through how their cars are built, how their cars are prepared for this race, and now we're seeing for some of them, it's going to be tricky. Keep in mind, one of the competitors who is up there in Aiken is trying to get some of those positions back. He's been able to get back to 10th and has a little bit of help with some of the competitors around him.
Sometimes you just like to take a listen to the natural sounds of these engines. Beautiful. What a shot there. Just love it. Just love it. You know, Michigan, with all the stands that surround turns, I mean, I feel like it's one of the more unique setups right there. They're all segmented. Can't really cross them into another path. I'm not sure where you've sat before, Justin, but Can you cross between those stands, the ones that are basically segmented apart from each other?
Well, that's actually interesting because a lot of those grandstands that are segmented out are no longer there. You still have the main grandstands, though, down the front straightaway, where you absolutely can go through a lot of sections. I've sat in the segmented parts of the grandstands through turn 4.
We got 3 wide. Not to cut you off, Justin, or anything, but we do have some 3 wide action right here.
I was going to say, with that traffic, keep in mind, that is with Stefan Schlacker's trying to let them on go. He's already 5 laps down, but you also have start and finish line, which is also a throwing spot. You also have that jetted out section along the pit entry area that brings a lot of seats and many competitors as well. And some light to watch along with what is now party decks at the top of the grandstand. So there's so many different ways and areas you can watch along here at this facility.
Sports stadiums, racetracks, all of those gladiator arenas in general are moving towards those party deck areas. That's where it seems like the next evolution, the next phase of development for anything that has spectators kind of is headed. Everywhere having a party deck, places where people can stand, mingle, and not necessarily have to watch the game or the race or anything like that, but have a good time with something going on behind them.
It allows them to be able to move around too, and that's something I've done a fair bit is, okay, I have seats in this section. Let's go to this area where there's a deck to be able to watch along. Okay, let's move along to this area and see how the race is for a little while. So you can move around frequently. Keep in mind, the grandstands in turn 3, those big stands, they just passed along. The current version of Michigan on the iRacing service has this, is also essentially now a party deck section as well, where there is a big area that spectators can watch for the entry to turn 3. It is something that's been described of with people who have experienced that grandstand, though, at that time, at this era for this track, as being one of the more picturesque and exciting places to watch the race is that entry to turn 3.
The entry to turn 3 is when they're at their one of their quickest spots. I used to love seeing the speed clocks at the end of turn 3, or going into turn 3 and to turn 1. Oh my goodness, seeing some NASCAR Cup Series cars go around there at 210 miles per hour. Those were the days. It's unfortunate we don't see them there anymore. But back to some racing action. We're just 5-6 laps away from reaching that midway point. The race has been going on for just around an hour. Just for your information, there is a time limit to this race of 2 hours and 30 minutes. The current pace we're going at, though, we're not even going to come close to that.
Now, right now, we're approaching a pace where we see at the very most on the 2-hour mark. Not to jinx it with the clock, but these competitors have put on a phenomenal show. We're already approaching halfway. They've been putting on a blistering pace, and they've done a clean job throughout this entire event so far, pacing themselves and picking their spots for the most part of when they want to go. And oh, by the way, remember those times we were talking about earlier too, where they were running up to 2/10 quicker, these cars on screen in the lead pack? They've now evened out to the 6th on back cars. So whatever these 5 have on short run, it's helped them being able to break away. It's going to be difficult for them to stay broken away, I think, as the tires wear on down.
You know, the gap that has now developed between that 5th to 6th place separation is now 3 seconds. That's a huge difference, and it was a lot smaller just around 10 laps ago.
It was, indeed. You're right on that. And keep in mind, when you have the 96 breaking away from the pack with wing damage, that's incredible. It just shows the work from Iconic Motorsports to prepare for this race, to find the speed and the pace. You know, we were talking to Stefan Schlacker a little bit, and he mentioned he looked through his setup and sorts for this race about 7 times and went back to what he had originally 6 times. And that's just the process of how you prepare these types of cars. It takes a lot of preparation to look back and see, okay, what can I do with this? What can I do with that? What will work to find the speed? And obviously, we've seen top 5 find that little extra oomph they needed to be able to get that run that they had in the first 15-20 laps of the run.
This battle for 7th is really heating up. Hans Pikkinen is the driver in front of this 7th place pack. Musselman, Hoffman, Aiken, who, if you recall, Andrew Aiken was right up there fighting for that top spot. He was right alongside Joshua Chin for most of the race, but Aiken got a little bit out of shape and lost so much ground.
Yeah, it's going to be where Aiken, I think, has the car, obviously, to get up there. We've seen him up there before, is EOL Pelony for the blend line. It's just a matter of, can he get a caution to get himself back up? He needs to get to the very minimum to 6th position, in my opinion. It's just a matter of patience, or he can take it 3 wide.
Ooh, that is some absolutely gutsy racing right there. Aiken goes down to the bottom. He's going to slide really far up the track. It's a bit of a slide job. Keep yourself out of the wall. He's able to do that, but he's going to lose so much momentum. It looked like he just got out of the throttle real quick. I'm not sure what happened there. They're 3 wide. He's in the middle. Hoffman just asked, what happened?
It definitely looked like he got out of the throttle by 10 miles per hour. He's still got the momentum to clear on by these drivers. Potentially get up to 7th spot pretty soon with how big of a gap that car is broken out. But man, an interesting sequence now is developed, and it's similar to what we've seen down the backstretch where they're clear of the wall. Looked like all they need to do is go straight, and then just all of a sudden the power just seems to settle on down backwards. Already apologies coming in from Aiken.
Yeah, what was that? That was confusing. I'd love to know if he just lost his foot off the throttle. That's the second time we've seen some checking up happening in weird spots from drivers today.
I still think he's in a good spot car-wise. It's just, can he get himself up to the 96, who has already broken away by more than a second? Look at the raw pace coming out now that he's been clear of them. It's just going to be that draft and the difference in down the straightaways. That's going to take a little bit of while to get around the 8.
I'll tell you what, Vesa in the 96 is going to have the most boring time for these next amount of laps just racing by himself.
Well, sometimes you like having that sense of calmness, to be able to breathe after a lot of battling and shuffling. I'm curious, though, if he didn't get the wing damage from that pit stop sequence in the 96 for Vesa, where he would be. Because to say you're faster than 5, 6, 7 cars with damage is absolutely astounding to me.
5, 6, 7 cars with damage and without the draft as well.
Uh-huh.
Pretty impressive indeed. So, what's going on up front? Logan Simmons, Schwalbauer, Baer, Chin, Wood, status quo. Not much is going on up there as we reach lap 105 of this race. We're well past the halfway point now. These drivers just chilling right now. Not much you can say about them when they're not really putting a foot wrong lately. There have been some interesting bits of racing, but I think now they all understand they're in it for the long haul now.
Exactly. And it's just getting into the rhythm and trying to get into that flow. At the very least, it looks like Chin and Wood in particular, I've noticed, though, seem to be strong the first 5 laps or so of the run, especially in dirty air with the aero wash, but then find the rhythm again for about laps 35 onward. So I think those drivers are being really patient. Same being said for these competitors where they're just willing to just ride along behind Simmons, let Simmons pull them around the racetrack, continue to let them save. Josh Baird got a little bit snaky, though, coming off the corner. A little bit of a bobble throughout that entire banking.
Yeah, definitely a bobble right there. And now Joshua Chin is going to be able to get right up to the gearbox. He takes a little bit off the throttle, though. That dirty air can play a factor here. That's why we're seeing a lot of drivers who are right behind others get into the wall, get at least very high up the exit of turn 2. Typically, though, you don't see that from the lead driver, which we have seen a couple times just get up into the wall. And, I mean, that you could just say, well, that's just their fault in a way. You never like to blame a driver for any incidents, but sometimes if you get into the wall, sometimes you're going to have to just say, well, that was me. That was on me.
You need to have that sense of humility as a driver, though, to be able to learn from your mistakes, because you're the type of driver who is, oh, I never do anything wrong, as you slide 7 lanes up from the bottom of the racetrack and then into the wall. You're going to learn. Too much. So, as competitors, you need to be able to learn from what you do wrong, be able to look at the tape, be able to look at what you're doing car-wise, and have all those talking points. Meanwhile, you're 3 wide in that second pack again.
That second pack just does not like to keep the status quo. I'll tell you that for sure. Jan Hoff currently side by side with AJ Musselman right behind Art McEwen in that 40 car. McEwen is now going to go down the inside of the 8 of Hans Pikkinen and try to make some time up. Now they're going side by side as they cross the start-finish line. The racing has been good and fair. You know, that's been something we were talking about. Would there be a lot of cautions in this race? And it seems like, for the most part, everyone is treating others fairly. The only cautions we've seen have been one-car incidents, meaning we haven't seen any catastrophes unfold.
First of all, let's hope the commentator's curse doesn't strike there.
Oh, no. Oh, no. What did I do?
Well, you put in the commentator's curse into play.
I did.
Well, second of all, I think it's just the respect all these competitors have one there, because it was similar to that at Richmond as well, for those who remember back to late June, because a lot of the troubles were drivers in single-car incidents having a spin coming off of turn 2 or turn 4. And we're seeing the similar ramifications here where drivers are pushing up off the corner in turn 2 or turn 4. And that's causing the major checkups and the incidents for the most part throughout this race, outside of the pit lane situation we talked about earlier. So for the most part, the respect is there. The space is being given. These drivers are having fun, and that's the critical part. It's having fun with your fellow competitors and your teammates, and these drivers are doing exactly that. Having fun at Michigan, under the sun, what has been a thrilling race as we are now within 10 laps of the next pit window.
As Fernando Alonso says, Justin, would you like to do the honors?
I'm trying to remember the exact quote you're
talking
talking about.
You have to leave it a space.
I had a feeling you were going to say that.
You can always count on me to give horrible impersonations and puns. Puns are the best. Meanwhile, we've got some good racing happening in the second pack. That first pack, second pack separation has really formed itself to around 6.5, 7 seconds, except for Vessa in the 96, who is down 5 seconds, so still a huge gap between them. I mean, I know about the curse and everything like that, but we've got 87 laps to go, and these drivers are racing very respectfully right now. I don't think we're going to see much until we have pit stops again, which we could see another mistake from a driver, but the only problem has been when JB Wilson hit the outside wall in race pace situation. So, you know what? I don't think it's absolutely crazy to say we'll go green for a long time here. But it could be also extremely cursy that I've just provided.
That definitely sounds very cursy.
That does sound very cursy. I'm so sorry.
Well, on the positive note with the race itself, AJ Musselman's done a very spectacular job. And keep in mind, he's one of the crossovers from Lionheart Racing Series competition, Dylan, where he's well respected for being a clean racer and someone who likes to gamble on strategies. He's done an impressive job in his debut in this series, in terms of his pace, in terms of how he's fared out. He's really impressed me with how he's done. It's just been the matter of keeping the consistency up. Right now, he's got a car, I think, that can finish top 10 in his debut, Dylan. It's just, can he keep things going as he's starting to push up off the corners?
Yeah, I completely agree with you right there. You know, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with his race as we continue going. I don't think it's crazy to say that Musselman could finish in the top 5. You see all the cars just screaming past that turn 4 camera right there and over the start-finish line. They're all still racing very cleanly right now.
And they're all taking advantage of Musselman, who is starting to really struggle with the tire wear, it looks like. At the end of this run, this is not what he needed at this point. As some indications of drivers are coming into pit this time, I think Luke LaVille has now indicated he wants to come in.
Yep, LaVille seems like he's going to be coming in. He's going to come off of turn 4. Oh, and he almost gets hit from behind. No one was necessarily listening from back there that he was coming in. So LaVille, not like what he was seeing from the craziness in front. He's going to try and get to the pits early. Is this a risky situation, Justin?
Well, if he loses a lap here, which he might now because he just overran his box and lost himself an additional 2 seconds, can happen because the net time in the pit lane has been about 35, 36 seconds today under green flag conditions. The lap times are still in the 34-second bracket. At the very least, you're going to lose a lap. You need the cycle to stay green for a call during green to work out.
So LaVille is coming out of the pits now. He's going to be a lap down. And, I do wonder when we're going to see everyone else go into the pits. Art McEwen, I think he's going into the pits now. Ethan Agan coming into the pits. And Agan really needs to get on his horse because back in 11th place, that's not going to do anything for his championship hopes here.
McEwen indeed coming down that pit lane. And there's how hot some of these drivers practiced. You've seen the backdrop with Agan. Try to make sure you go as deep as you can in the box. But to emphasize exactly what you're talking about, it's not been Ethan's day, indeed, where he's been marred in that second pack. This lead group has just been able to save to a T. Now again, extending it 44 laps this time at the stripe. Again, going to reach at least 45.
This has been an impressive go. Usually we don't always see green flag stops happen in this series on ovals, but the fact that we're getting some full cycles is pretty impressive. I do wonder when everyone else is going to come down into the pits because that's only a few drivers who have made their way down. So everyone either has more fuel. Baird is coming down now, so the first driver from that lead group. It looks like everyone is coming in for the most part, 3 of the top 5, and there was almost a hit into the gearbox from Josh Baird into, I believe, Schwalbauer. I don't think any of them said they were pitting in. Justin, did you hear that and I just didn't?
Heard it from Baird, but that's about it in that call. So at the very least, they had the right idea to group together, but the teammates here, Wood and Chin, able to extend it now towards 46th, and it looks like Wood looking like he's going to try and peel it in. Going to be interesting for Chin, and there's the confidence there. Chin passing around the high side to get around his teammate, and crashes into the cone.
Oh no! Chin into the cone. That's going to be potentially race ending for Joshua Chin. That has opened up the door for other drivers to get involved into the championship picture. Chin, who was 48 points down. Oh, and Baird is in the grass as well. We catch a replay of what happened with Joshua Chin.
Look at this. He did this perfectly. Had the confidence to send it a little bit deep. But right here, as he's locking up the tires, just jets himself right into the attenuator. And that's going to cost him a ton of time. As that all happened, Baird lit up the tires trying to get on the gas. It's a very slippery apron, and that's going to really affect Baird's car. And all of a sudden, the lead pack, well, it just exploded.
Unbelievable. Logan Simmons is in first place, I believe, now officially in this run. Andrew Wood coming out of the pits. He will inherit third place, while that first place or second place driver is Schwalbauer. So Chin is still showing in fourth. Is that possible?
Is possible.
But wow. Okay. So did he have any damage?
No. I don't think he got damaged somehow.
Okay, well, that's got to be the luckiest thing I've ever seen, because he most certainly should have gotten a good bit of damage right there, or at least had to replace that front wing. Instead, he's just sitting right now in 5th place. That's remarkable.
I haven't said this in a couple years, and it is on Josh Chin's car, but hashtag blame Randy, maybe?
Blame Randy or hashtag blessed, as Lewis Hamilton would say.
Both work.
Both work indeed. I still can't believe he came away with that without any damage. That is so impressive. 76 laps to go. We're reaching that 75 lap to go. If you want to do some fractions, 5/8 of the way through. I'm so sorry for bringing in math to this. Joshua Chin getting passed by Josh Baird. Even though there's no damage on Joshua Chin's 93 machine, I wonder if there's anything that's going to come later. Maybe something is a little off with the steering or engine. I just can't see how he comes out of that unscathed.
Well, he did come scathed with one thing. Time on the racetrack. 7-8 seconds lost to the lead pack. Andrew Wood, as a result, has no draft whatsoever. And their call looked to be use Chin as the front car, work with Wood, get themselves lined up to get to the top 2. That strategy's out the window. Now, their entire strategy and game plan has completely been scrambled as a result. This has now fallen into the top 2's hands perfectly now with this gap that is slowly but surely growing as a result of that major mistake.
So, unless there is a caution in this race to come, it looks like it's just Simmons Schwalbauer unless there's another pit road incident.
We've seen how difficult it is to execute that pit lane for today, and the mistakes have definitely built up. Keep in mind, 23 and Baird, you may have noticed, ended up getting front wing damage too, Dylan, from the grass, from bouncing through that said grass. So that's going to slow down that group.
So Baird gets damage, and Chin doesn't.
Not sure what to really say on that, Mark.
That's pretty amazing right there. You see that damage is definitely viewable. I wonder how much that's actually affecting him, though.
It was enough where Chin said, you know what, I'm going to build up this run, and got around him last time by at the stripe. And you can see it right there. Just a little bit with the battle through the throttle, 212 through the corners. It's not affecting him, of course, down the straights. It's just going to be through the corners. He's willing to fight here for the spot.
Josh Baird going down the inside of Joshua Chin, gets the move done. Doesn't seem to be too much of an issue, but the crossover is going to come from Joshua Chin, who goes right up to the gearbox. He's almost either stalling or taking his foot a little bit out of the throttle right there and just letting this play out. Because even though we were talking about the leader being the one that uses the most fuel, now it's anyone who's in the lead of a pack as well. In this case, it would be Josh Baird. And they still have at least one more pit stop.
Yeah, the math calculations show it would be one stop to make it on gas from this point forward. Bring a caution flag. The magic number to make it to the end. Safely, we've seen through today, about 44 laps to go. If you get to that mark, you're in a comfortable spot. I will say, there is the potential of drivers taking a little less fuel now coming into play, because a lot of these drivers can extend this to under 40 to go.
Do you think we'll see any drivers try a different strategy, maybe right when they hit that mark where they feel like they can make it to the end, then they go into pit? Do you feel like we'll see drivers just go all the way till the end of this fuel run and then get a less fuel than they would otherwise?
I think based on what I've seen in the past, we may see drivers experiment with the less fuel to be able to have a lighter car, because the lighter the car, the faster it usually goes, in theory, Dylan. So that's at least my thought process here on that. It's just a matter of how much less fuel do you take, because fuel is time. It may gain some drivers a couple tenths or so in the pit lane.
Yeah, that's very true. Fuel is time. At the same time, though, you got to make sure you get down pit lane in one piece. We've only seen 2 cautions in this race. One was off of pit lane. We've had issues on every pit lane entry, it seems like, so far in this race. Even under caution, we've had an issue. So pit lane seems to be the hot spot for problems developing for these drivers, these teams themselves. And in front, it's still Simmons and Schwalbauer, by the way. So nothing's changed between these two. Just having some fun out here. It seems like it's practice for these two. They're not going to be switching positions. If anything, I think it benefits Schwalbauer to stay in behind.
Absolutely does. And have to say, that is a very iconic paint scheme in the iconic motorsports machine.
Okay, well, you know what? Usually I thought I would be the one to point that out, but Justin, I'm so proud of you for pointing that out, so thank you.
I love the design, especially using the iconic with the various different colors. Very well executed for this 65 machine who has had speed all day.
It would be really iconic if they were able to get that machine into victory lane today. That would be an impressive run, because Schwalbauer and Simmons, I think we've got to say, these two drivers have been the class of the field so far. They have been up front when everyone else has sort of been fighting, and by the way, it got darker. There's now clouds.
I mean, you have to love clouds. It's still pretty hot on the racetrack. Here's the thing, though, Dylan. It's 117 degrees Fahrenheit on the racetrack, track temp. It's still 80 degrees Fahrenheit, air temp. In sim day, August the 5th. So it's going to stay fairly hot for now. It's how long the clouds stay above the racetrack, which is going to be critical. And it's only covering parts of the racetrack, too.
Yeah, and when it's only covering parts of the racetrack, we might see other parts get cooler while the entirety of the track has some different spots, hot spots, cold spots. It could make the cars a little bit unbalanced in certain locations compared to other locations. This battle for fourth is still pretty hot right now between Chin, Baird, and Aiken. Ethan Aiken is very far off the pack here, so the top two, the top three outside of that. Wood's just kind of chilling right now in third place. We were talking about it being a boring run for Vesa earlier. Can I just say, Justin, it's definitely boring right now for a driver on the podium in the moment.
I mean, if you're Wood or Chin or Baird or Aiken, your thought is, caution, caution, please. There's debris all over the racetrack. There's water bottles. Something like that.
Oh my goodness, there's water bottles. Who's throwing the water bottles out here? Is it you?
Not me this time.
This time? Excuse me. When was the time you've done it?
I've never actually done that. But, I mean...
Maybe if we get the virtual reality camera from the stands, we could act like we're doing it.
Let's go with that.
Stefan says it's going to be me. It's going to be himself that's going to be throwing the water bottle out there.
Wait, hold on. Isn't he on the racetrack still? In 18th?
He is still on the racetrack, so he's definitely taking some laps out there. He's 5 laps down, and he's currently in a battle himself that he shouldn't even be a part of right now, but I'm sure he's enjoying every bit of it. Now, my question is, why is he typing to us while he's also racing?
Good question.
Oh, maybe this is why he's 5 laps down. Oh! Love you, Stefan. Oh my goodness, sometimes these races, when they get so spread out like this, they kind of turn into a little bit of a podcast. The closest battles we've got going on, the battle for 7th right now between LaVille, Agan, Hoffman, and Pickenham. And just so everybody knows, this is important for the championship standings. Stefan says, I am bored. I mean, fair enough. But Pickenham is currently watching the championship battlers play their part right here. Could we see any fireworks develop between these guys right here today?
Well, the fireworks just about came up because I believe LaVille may have just smacked the wall there.
Well, 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 I didn't even see that.
It would have been with the right rear tire. It was close because we've seen a little bit of a jet out and a bounce. A couple of these drivers reacted to it with how close he got to that wall with the Vortex machine.
So when it comes to the next round of pit stops, not to throw away what we were just talking about right there, but when it comes to the next round of pit stops, it almost looked like he was going to go into the wall again. When are we going to see it? So are we going to see it potentially lap 160, or are we going to see it a little bit afterwards?
I think at this point, it's going to be after 160 at the rate we're going. I wouldn't be surprised to see with the undercut being as powerful as it is for some competitors by about 2-3 tenths or so with the tires, that drivers try it at about 44 to go. But most of these competitors I can see try to extend it to under 40 to go, take a little less fuel, and go from there. That's the execution mark. At least how I would play as these drivers shuffle about in this group.
The top two in the championship, LaVille leading Ethan Agan by 20 points. They are side by side right now, and I think we need to look at Jan Hoffman just to see this battle happening between these two. Why don't we go for a little bit of fan immersion with Hoffman as we see the two championship battlers just battle it out right here, Justin. We hope you enjoyed that fan immersion on board with Jan Hoffman as he watched Ethan Agan and Lucas Laville do battle, the two championship leaders in this situation. Right behind him was Hans Pickenen. So I gotta say, pretty much status quo there. And status quo for the lead of the race. Logan Simmons and Willie Schwabauer, they are coming up to some lap traffic. Randy Shoemake and Robert Rocher, or excuse me, not Robert Rocher. It is AJ Musselman. Now, what happened with Musselman? Was that just a stop that was on schedule, Justin? I'm not sure if we were watching it.
He is now coming up to 28 laps on a stint, so he took an early pit stop. So he's on a different strategy call. At the very least, it looks like right now. But keep in mind, he actually was able... He is a lap down, AJ Musselman rather, so he needs this race to stay green for things to cycle out. Should be worth noting that French Stefan Schlacker did cause a little swap for a moment or so with these drivers, with one of them trying to take the high line to Stefan. And that caused them to shuffle back, and since then they've re-changed their positions back to where they are. Wood has also fallen adrift to 4 seconds. Chin and company are starting to chip away at these two drivers.
Yes, they really are. They're going a lot faster than these lap cars. I wonder if it's down to just what they have been doing pace-wise. They know this track, or there's some issues with maybe Shoemake or AJ Musselman. Robert Groscher is the second car that would go a lap down, as Musselman would be 2 laps down. That would be absolutely detrimental to him, but it's probably going to happen. I mean, that would be so bad for his race if it goes to a yellow after he's been put 2 laps down, because even if he did get the wave around, he would only get 1 lap back and he would still be a lap down. So, I mean, this is huge for him. That's a risky strategy call, Justin.
It is. It's going to be intriguing how it all plays out. That's the main thing. You need this race to go green for it to somehow work your direction. But we are now in towards that magic number, this time by the stripe. Now it gets intriguing on how this plays out. For the Musselman, it's not looking like this strategy could play out. He might still get a decent finish here, but is right now in range to fall 2 laps down, this time by in turns 1 and 2.
He's going to go 2 laps down right now and almost got together with Simmons. Now Shoemake is going to go 1 lap down, and oh my goodness. Well, that's a strategy call I just don't understand yet.
Yeah, unfortunate for him, was in a great position before all of this, but at the very least, here's getting through nice and cleanly. Robert Groscher not gone the way he's been hoping this race has gone, obviously, because he was up towards the front in the lead group, checked up, lost the lead group, has continued to just get shuffled more and more, and he finished 3rd position the last time this series was here. So he had a track record of doing well, and now he's one of those drivers lifting and looking like he's coming in.
Groscher going down into pit lane, gets slowed down. I think this was the right strategy call, because if you do go a lap down, then I mean, you almost want to go into the pits right when you go a lap down, because if there's a caution before you go a lap down, you're fine, you're saved. But once you do go a lap down, or once you're about to go a lap down, you might as well come down in, because then it really comes down to you need the strategy to work out well for yourself and stay green the entirety of the race. So nice call from Groscher to make it right there.
And he ended up taking a 10.7 second pit stop as we take a look at the battle for 4th, and it can nearly knock the wall down once again. That air wash really coming into play on corner exits now, with the tires really wearing out. And it's looking like for the rest of the field, Dylan, they're doing what I thought they would do here. Push as long as they can on the fuel, try and see how long they can go and see how things play out.
That battle now for 7th place is really heating up. I know we're watching that battle for 4th between these 3 drivers, but Lucas Laville back in 7th is really, look how far back that is compared to that battle for 4th place. Again, Andrew Wood's just kind of chilling by himself right now. He's losing some ground to Joshua Chin in 4th. nonetheless, it looks like LaVille is heading down into pit lane. So a few drivers are going to follow him. Looked like Hoffman was able to slow down, teammates obviously.
Synced it up perfectly, and a nice entry for Hoffman in particular to be able to go a little bit later on the brakes, close up 3-4 car lengths. I think they might be grouped together by that pit exit, and they're able to take a little bit quicker stops this time. 9.5 for Hoffman. I think LaVille, in terms of the stopwatch, took a bit more fuel though at 11.3.
Interesting. So, does he almost think this is maybe going to go yellow? Or, well, not yellow, because why would he take that much fuel?
Well, I think it's maybe just to play it safe. I think that's the main thing you can think about. Maybe the familiarity of normally coming into the pit stops for the full fuel. You need to check that, though, when you're coming into these boxes, if you want to go for the call of a little less gas in the tank.
So, with these pit stops, there's now only 10 drivers, I believe, or now, yeah, 10 drivers on the lead lap, but Pitkinen is in the pit. So, this is really where the cycling starts now. Everyone can go the distance as long as they pit around now. I still don't understand, is there a spinner, Justin?
Well, you said his name. Pitkinen went sideways just moments ago.
Is that the broadcaster's curse for bringing him up?
I would say with it being within 1 second, possibly, but it's the same mistake we've seen from Baird before, except he didn't go in the grass. A little bit earlier, lights up the tires. Good job locking it down.
That could have been really bad, though, having just half a second earlier. He would have had his left front wing just smashed into the wall on the inside there. Nonetheless, we're watching some battling right here. Joshua Chin currently in 5th place as everyone is starting to cycle. Josh Baird in 4th. Wood, Schwalbauer, Simmons are still kind of holding where they are. Andrew Wood is pinning though right now. So we're going to see some of the leaders. Baird's going into the pits. Again, it's just the cycle game. What happens here? Who gets the advantage?
And Baird coming in. It was a little bit close with Chin, but still a fair amount of time warned over the radio, so able to come in nice and smoothly. The race leaders are indicating they want to come in this time, so they looked very much in sync on their strategy. And are they doing one of... They're really backing it down in turns 3 and 4. This is a little bit earlier than I thought they would back it down here.
Oh, and you saw Simmons back it down even quicker. Schwalbauer almost had to... Oh, look at that. Did Simmons go in extra high? Is he going to get a penalty?
That's going to be absolutely huge because he was 80 miles per hour at the cone. The speed limit is 55. And this is going to come down to the timing segments if they're going to give him the benefit of the doubt here. This is where he reaches 55 right there. And I think we're about to see that answer because speeding is a significant penalty, and it looks like he's been booked.
That is potentially a win taken out of his hands, and that was his own fault there. Schwalbauer, is he just going to be able to race the entirety of the way by himself?
Possibly. This is absolutely huge. Schwalbauer played this out well. It looked like based on the Jack Simmons was going for a quicker stop. But this is played exactly into Schwalbauer's hands now with that speed penalty. Again, a 40-second stop and hold if you speed in the pit lane.
That's incredible. Wow. Chin is going in and out of the pits now. 9.5 seconds in his stall. So once everyone cycles back out, we're going to be able to see who's going to be in the lead. Well, we know who's going to be in the lead. It's going to be Schwalbauer. But who's going to be filling out the rest of the podium? I mean, then we'll see the gaps, the difference in gaps between these drivers, which is going to be so important to see if there is a chance that Schwalbauer will be chased down.
I think it's now raw pace. Chin actually jumped Wood in the pit cycle, it looks like here, with the 2-lap overcut. So at the very least, he's gained some ground. They actually picked up 2 seconds on Schwabauer through the pit stop cycle. But now, it's the matter of, is there going to be, 1, enough time, and 2, is there going to be enough raw pace for them to close up the gap with them being all drafting together with Schwabauer essentially just going to have clean air and maybe some draft from a couple lap cars?
I mean, you'd think that these drivers in Chin, Wood, and Aiken would work together. I mean, they've got a lot of lap cars right in front of them to even help out the draft some more, which is going to be huge if they want to chase down Schwabauer. Logan Simmons is a lap down in 13th place. Wow. How incredible is that?
And you need to execute down pit road. It's so significant because many drivers practice it with how they enter, which lane they go in. You have to keep up with the briefing to make sure you get the right pit entry, with regulations. And as a result, with Logan Simmons trying to send it as deep as he can, they're going a little bit too late in the brakes. It is the mistake of the race, to say the very least. It's taken Simmons not just out of the conversation for the win, but potentially out of the conversation for a top 10 unless he gets some luck here, coming up to 30 to go plus.
I think Chin, Wood, and Aiken can catch Schwabauer. It's just going to take some really good teamwork, even though they're not teammates, but it's going to have to take that work together to chase him down.
Yeah, this is going to be intriguing how this all fares out, because this time by at the stripe, they picked up 2/10. Indeed. They need to pick up more than that, though, I think, to get a realistic shot here.
Now, if we're thinking 2/10, if that's going to be a consistent gain on Schwabauer throughout the rest, well, that's every 5 laps, 1 second. 5 seconds down, that's catching him with around 5 laps to go. So 2/10 is enough, just has to be consistent.
I still think based on...
Ooh, even more, a little bit over 2/10. I think they can catch him.
Yeah, it's looking like now, because they've reached Musselman, they picked up that extra 10, absolutely. So, remember, Wood dropped 4 seconds, or rather 2+ seconds, with clean air running on his own, at the minimum. So at the very least, I think you're right. It's just going to be, can the lap traffic play safely here? They have 3 lap cars separating them and the race leader.
Again, 2.5 tenths, it just came down. I mean, they're going to catch him.
But now you have to wonder how Schwabauer handles this, especially once it gets closed up fully. That's going to be the big question mark for me, Dylan, is how do you play the lines? Because these cars are going to be coming with a big head of steam, and so far there's been a lot of restraint, a lot of give and take, where they try and save, stay in a line, work together. Once they reach them, I don't think you're going to see that big restraint. We may see some bold moves have to come into play to try and win this race.
We may see this race end under caution if that is the case. 4.68. Oh my goodness, this is intense. We're going to keep watching to see if that gap will come down. Now, as they enter into turn 3, Schwabauer is exiting turn 4. That's how far away they are on track, around 2 corners away from each other. That's how long it takes to get around these. Just crossing the start-finish line is Schwabauer, and there they go. Wood, Chin, Aiken, they all do the same. So, they've got even more cars that are going to be a lap down, and they're fighting for position right now, it looks like. Logan Simmons, Groscher, and Art McEwen. So, that might not be as friendly of a pass as some of the other drivers have been.
Yeah, all for position, all 1 lap down for the first of those competitors on that lap cycle. Main thing, though, I've noticed is Simmons does have the pace compared to them to break away, but McEwen and Groscher are not giving up their fight easily with one another, and it's going to be tricky when they reach them. Indeed, with that side-by-side, could hold them up a little bit.
Chin, Wood, Aiken. That gap did not come down that much that past lap. It still needs to come down some more. This lap traffic is really going to help them again. But Once they pass these 3 cars, there's only one more lap car, I believe, that stands between them and Schwalbauer, which is really going to be important for the draft to come into play. 25 laps to go.
And now yep, and they've stopped fighting in front. So that's going to help them indeed with this lineup. They are going to get the aero wash down in the corner a little bit, but down that straightaway, that's going to pick them up an extra couple miles per hour if they shift through the gears this time. Schwalbauer, I have noticed, though, has picked up a sniff of the draft from Pickinen's car. So he does have a bit of draft to help him compensate with these 3.
So, we'll see what the gap is when they cross the line. It was 4.486. Now it is 4.414. Not enough. Will they catch him? We don't know. It's looking even worse of a possibility now than it was 5 laps ago.
It's exactly what I said. You need to gain more than a couple tenths, I think, even consistently, have the realistic shot, because while it passes the map test, does it pass the on-track test? Because you have to weigh in the factor of Schwalbauer will eventually reach some traffic, which he has. That's now given him the draft. These drivers have to pass by the traffic. That loses you some time, loses a little bit of that window. So that can fluctuate amongst those times, and we're seeing that really come into play now, to the point where they lost ground last time by overall.
However, it looks like the next driver that Schwalbauer will be able to catch up to is Franz Josef Stum, who is already on the backstretch. So, I don't think he really is going to get any more drafting help. This is really all Chin, Wood, and Aiken now, who need to get back up in line. Oh no, Aiken into the wall! Aiken got into the wall.
And that's going to break up that pack just like that. We'll have to see how Aiken's car now responds. That is not what he wanted to see. With hard contact, it appears, with the right side tires. He is really starting to push. He's already lost the toe of the Chimera cars.
That gap is now down to 4.1 seconds. We'll catch a replay here, and pretty much that aero wash. It's what we've been seeing coming up through the turns. Turn 2, the exit has been hard all day for these drivers. He's way up the track, slams into that outside safer barrier. Seems to be handling fine right now, though. But obviously, losing that toe is going to be huge.
Well, he's still technically within it, but the problem is, after the contact, he's now slower by about a tenth or 2 a lap. So it's definitely affecting him overall pace-wise, because you get that little bit of speed lost if you knock the wall down the way he did. And now it's Chin and Wood who need to close up 4 seconds or so in 18 laps this time. Again, it's going to take perfection from them.
What do? Do you swap around every time the car in behind is faster? That's what I would do.
Well, with this car, we haven't seen necessarily the swap draft come into play today. If anything, side by side has slowed them down a little bit. So I think right now they're doing what they have to do at the very least.
Look who's helping them out now. Logan Simmons. He's going to go up high. Oh no!
Oh!
What?
Well, that's not help. That's going to cost them time. What did I just say?
It looked like they gained a little bit of time, but what was Simmons doing right there? He's still fighting, and he had to go way up high in the track, had to jerk the wheel to the right. That's not good racecraft.
Yeah, I think Chin had the radar to show his appreciation of what just happened there. As you'll see, they've got the quicker run. They were able to pull him in from a couple car lengths back, heading off into that corner. And again, Simmons is in 11th position. So watch right here. I think Simmons is trying to stay up high, stay above that third seam, and Chin drifts up as Simmons starts to come below that seam for the corner exit.
And Simmons is still fighting with them right now. This is, what are you doing right here? I mean, you're a lap down. Let these drivers just go by. I don't know. I think it's not a great move.
They've lost 4/10 as a result of this. This is exactly what Schwabauer needed. And this is exactly the fear I had if we try to go back and forth. Exactly what we've seen throughout the race. You battle hard for a position like this, it costs you overall time on exit.
They're trying to do everything they can to get by Logan Simmons, and they're not going to make it easy for Simmons at all to try and stay side by side here. I would be furious if I was Chin or Wood right now.
And keep in mind,
this is the race.
Yeah, this is absolutely the race, and this is absolutely, I think, going to potentially boil over soon. A narrow later arc that time. Keep this in mind. Simmons, an iconic car. Schwabauer, iconic car. You have Chimera cars trying to close in. All of that starting to come in, and now near contact with Wood. He nearly got to the left rear.
Would you be shocked to see a caution come out of this?
I wouldn't be shocked at this rate.
And maybe a little bit of anger and frustration boiling over. That would not be shocking. And now I think they're seeing that it might be over, that battle for first place. So now the battle for second starts now between Chin and Wood.
Well, Simmons has almost made contact again.
I mean, I understand defending for your teammate, but at the same time, you need to know where the limits are.
Yeah, even when you come into the teammate factor, again, the thought process for me is, you are a lap down. This is potentially the grouping that is trying to reel in the race lead. Even if he's your teammate, you give them the space normally as a lap car. Just mind-boggling.
Controversy indeed. Simmons is still staying in that draft. I think he's still going to try and fight with them. I mean, this doesn't make sense.
Well, he can gain a position here on Pickenen if he stays within their draft. So that's what, at the very least, he can play for by staying behind him now. But with 11 laps to go or so in this race, just wow.
He's definitely taken them out of contention to win without there being a yellow flag over the next few laps or so. But, I mean, yes, I understand defending for your team. I understand getting in the draft, which he's doing right now to try and pass Pickenen. What I don't understand is coming together almost with these drivers multiple times. And I'm shocked that a caution didn't come out from catastrophe between Chin and Simmons around 10 laps ago.
Well, with 10 laps to go, though, it's going to be really intriguing now how this all comes to be now with more traffic in front. Pickenen knocks the wall down. Hits him.
Awful, awful catastrophe. That should never happen. A lap car getting involved. Joshua Chin, championship battler. He now is going to have to deal with a severely damaged race car. Awful.
Left front's not even touching the ground. That car is toast.
Awful. I don't think it's any hyperbole to say that that was awful.
That is unbelievable. The worst possible luck you can have in that situation, because we've talked about it all race. Drivers, as the tires wear out, have been struggling on corner exit, turn 2 in particular, where they slide up into the marbles and out of the rubber and knock the wall down. That's the worst scenario we were fearing.
The replays are, wow, they hurt a little bit to watch. I mean, Pickenen gets way up high, gets into the wall, comes down on Chin. I mean, in that case, just get out of the way.
I think he was trying to, I think they were going to pass by him down the back stretch. It's just that he just pushed up the racetrack at the worst time possible.
Well, you know who hates to see this? Willie Schwalbauer.
This race just got flipped upside down. And now becomes the question mark. Do you take tires here, even? Try and see if you can push on fresher rubber here.
I don't know. That's a great question. That could be something that would happen. I don't know if I'll necessarily... I don't think I would take fresh tires. Maybe. Well, if I'm on the lead lap, I take fresh tires.
I think a couple did. That's hence why I mentioned Hoffman, Egan, LaVille. So why not? You're multiple seconds behind. Why not see if the fresher rubber will give you the difference?
So it looks like Hoffman, Egan came in, LaVille, and that's pretty much it from that lead group. And that is going to give them a huge advantage. I think Schwalbauer is not going to be the leader at the checkered flag.
I mean, with how Wood's been in terms of how he's been able to make some moves, especially in the later stages of the run, even when you factor in the fresh tires, you can't count out Wood at all. You can't count out Aitken at all, because this is exactly what he needed. This is exactly what Baird needed. So this is now going to be insanity to be able to battle for this lead. Looking like we'll have 6 to go at the stripe. This time when they get the green, that's not going to be a lot of time, but this is going to be push, push, push to make sure you get yourself to the front.
Well. LaVille, Egan, Hoffman. Those 3 drivers are the ones who came in to the pits. Those 3 drivers, honestly, I'd put my money on them. They're going to be extremely fast around these corners. We'll see just how fast once they come around and the pace car goes down to pit lane. No matter what, I'm pretty sure, even if there's a caution after 2 laps of green flag racing here, this might be the last time we see a restart happen.
We are very close to the point of no return too, so you have to factor that in as well if there is late race trouble here. So now it's going to be the true test of, will the fresher tires be able to move up in time, or will the raw pace from what we've seen from the top 4 competitors throughout this day today be able to hold on to those spots?
As they roll around turn 4, just 6 laps to go. Once Schwalbauer spins on the restart, Willie Schwalbauer looking for his first ever win here in the Classic IndyCar Series. He spins and they stay under yellow. Chaos.
And what did I say about tire spin at the top? It was talked about, especially now with the older tires. It could be massive. And guess what? This was the first time all race these drivers were doing a restart up at the front on 20, 30 plus old lap tires. And as soon as he hit the gas just too quickly, bye-bye race car with the torque.
And he almost gets into the wall. Here's my question. Now, will the pace car come out and will they restart this lap? And will Andrew Wood be the leader? So the pace car looks to have his lights off. Its lights off. So that means, or is it off?
Yeah, it's off.
It's off. So they're going to go on a restart here. Schwalbauer has lost the race for himself. Unbelievable. Unless, is he being let back up into the lead? Wow. That is not supposed to happen. Well, controversy strikes. Schwalbauer made the mistake, helped himself out, maybe not the tires. Pace car down. He gets the green flag, and already they're stacking up right behind Schwalbauer. Andrew Wood goes down to the inside, heading into turn 1. There are just 5 laps to go. Wood goes to first place. He passes Schwalbauer easily into turn 1.
And obviously Schwalbauer taking that very differently after how wild things got, but those fresher tires are going to have to claw in more than a second to get up to this top 3 with how that start went.
Andrew Aiken is definitely hurting with these older tires. Andrew Wood now has to deal with Schwalbauer trying to fight his way down the inside with 4 laps to go. Schwalbauer takes over the lead, but he didn't lead at the stripe.
Nice line by Schwalbauer, but look at this diamond from Wood, using the banking as a ramp.
What a smart move right there. Andrew Wood back to the point. And right behind, you can't forget about Andrew Aiken, who if these two come together would inherit the lead and most likely the win of the race.
Oh, they touched.
They absolutely touched, exactly what we were saying. They crossed the line, and the leader at the line was Schwalbauer by 7 thousandths of a second. 3 laps to go.
Now this is going to be tight. Remember, Wood's been pushing up the track whenever he's gone below that first seam, so that's going to be something to keep in mind. Aiken, I think, is just waiting for his opportunity here.
I gotta say, don't forget about Ethan Agan either. Agan is about to clear Josh Baird, which would, with 2 laps to go, give him fresh tires and give him a lot of momentum. He clears him. He might still be in for a win in this race. 2 to go. Willie Schwalbauer at the point.
That's the point of no return as well, so the next flag would end the race essentially. Now it's the matter of, can Wood get another run on Schwalbauer?
The gap between all of the drivers in this top 4, now top 5, it is so minuscule. Schwalbauer still at the lead. Aiken now has to deal with Ethan Agan right behind. He's coming right up top on Agan. Agan has to take it a little bit out of the throttle. They almost touch. Going to the line. 1 lap to go here at Michigan. Willie Schwalbauer in front. 3rd place is Agan now.
I think Wood's trying to set it up, use the banking again as a ramp. Bit of a slide for Schwalbauer off of 2.
Oh, a big slide. Andrew Wood comes down to the inside. They're going to be side by side going into turn 3. Agan right behind in case anything happens between these 2 drivers. He's putting everything he's got. He could still win this race. They're coming out of turn 4. They touch. They touch. It's going to be a win for Ethan Agan. Agan will win. Chaotic finish to Michigan. Triple Crown middle child. Unbelievable.
Oh my word is my first reaction. Absolutely incredible, to say the very least. Agan was able to position himself perfectly to take advantage of that push-up from Wood. Again, Wood had been pushing up off the corner exits throughout this race from the bottom line in those battles such as that, and he just was able to take advantage, the perfect timing to be able to avoid the incident in front.
It's exactly what we were talking about. They still had a chance to win, and those fresh tires helped Agan out so much. Obviously, that incident right in front of him, he just avoids, helps him. I honestly think he would have had the speed to win anyway, as we see the helicopter formation happening back there. But what a finish to this chaotic race. I'll tell you what, though, Willie Schwalbauer, who finishes last on the lead lap in 8th, that could have been extremely controversial if he won.
Yeah, especially with him lighting up the tires the way he did, coming off of turn 4 in that restart. That is one of the most intriguing and unbelievable restart sequences we've seen. And on the bright side for Ethan, he gets to light up those tires instead.
And he disconnects knowing full well that he had a great race, a great ending. I don't know if he led more than just that final lap, but sometimes that's, well, all the time, that's the only lap that totally matters. Everyone has crossed the line, meaning we're going to be able to get to the final results of this race. Ethan Agan wins by 3.5 tenths over Josh Baird. Lucas LaVille, the championship rival, finishes 3rd, so doesn't lose too much to Agan. who is closing down that gap, might have taken the lead here. Jan Hoffman, Franz Joseph Stum, Andrew Aiken, Andrew Wood, and Willie Schwalbauer take care of the lead lap cars, Justin.
Right behind them in that situation, Schwalbauer, Heath Rocher in 9th, McEwen in 10th position, Randy Shoemaker 11th position indeed, AJ Musselman 2 laps down in 12th, Joshua Chin after significant repairs 2 laps down in 13th, Alex Crawford an up and down day, some downs to say the very least in 14th. Logan Simmons, he ended up smacking the wall during that light up the tires on that restart. That ended his day 7 laps down. Stefan Schlacker could not jump him by the stripe. He finishes 16th position. Vesa finishes in 18th right behind Pikkinen. Pikkinen was that driver who ended up hitting the wall coming out of turn 2, collecting Chin. And the driver significant laps down. Jonathan Diggs with the rough day with a spin to bring out the opening caution. There was a crash coming into the pit lane. Martin June, who ended up having a rough moment hitting the wall that cost him his race. McBride, Hauger, Wilson, the other DNFs.
Well, that was chaos, and you said it yourself that this race would be wild. It certainly gave us a wild ending. We've got a few of the podium drivers, the podium finishers with us right now. And why don't we bring the man, the winner of this race, Ethan Agan, into the booth. Awesome to be able to talk to him. Just trying to get him into this room right now. Not sure if we're able to do that. But he's here. Ethan Agan, the winner from this wild race. Ethan, your feelings, your thoughts after that one?
Uh, but I'm a little bit speechless, to be honest. Like, I wasn't expecting that. Um, like when I saw them hit each other, I was like, please don't hit my car, so I could possibly win this race and get some points. But oh man, what a day!
That was pretty chaotic at the end there. What was the decision for you to go get tires? Why'd you make that?
I mean, like I was running 7th at the time, and there was like only 8 cars left on the lead lap, so it's like, yeah, why not? Let's just get some tires in, hope for the best.
And obviously, the best seemed to happen. Do you feel like you had enough steam, even if there wasn't a crash, to take the win on that final stretch?
Nah, my car was getting very loose at the end before that caution came out. So even if I did not come in for tires, I probably would have finished 8th.
Do you feel like, last question, with everything going on and Schwalbauer having that little spin, you feel like that hurt you a little bit potentially? Obviously, it didn't hurt you at the end of the day, but do you feel like it could have hurt you that he got to go back up in the first?
Well, first of all, I felt bad for Willie at first because I thought his race was done, but I guess he got his place back because it didn't go green that time. But it just wasn't expecting this result. So and luckily didn't destroy my chances, and here I am with the win.
Awesome. Well, congratulations, Ethan.
Thank
I'm
you.
sure it's going to be a fun night for you as well.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks so much for joining us here. Now, I do want to bring in Justin because I believe you were about to stand by with the second place finisher in Josh Baird.
Yes, indeed. Josh Baird ended up getting himself into that second position at the stripe. And Josh, well, that was a wild closing stages of the race. Talk us through what you saw for the final few laps as you, I believe, just about went underneath the car.
Oh yeah, it was a crazy race. I was up there most of the beginning of the race and then had the issue coming out of the pits, one of our stops. So pretty much dropped me out of contention. And I think through the luck of the last caution there and the fact.
Josh, you have a copy. Josh Baird, do you have a copy?
Oh.
I believe we lost you for a split second, Josh.
Oh yeah. Am I back? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Yeah. So once we came back and squeezed through that.
Yeah, it seems like we're unable to pick up with Josh right now, so we'll have to move away. But thank you so much for attempting to come in here, Josh. great job on that second place finish. And we don't currently have Lucas Laville with us, so I guess it's time to wrap everything up from Michigan. That was a wild race, Justin.
Yeah, that is not how I expected the race to end off, because it was the type of race where strategy was king, where being able to have strong pace, especially from what we've seen from the top five, much of the race was king, but also being able to position yourself, be able to pounce and take advantage of opportunities was very critical, because from about 15 laps to go onward, it was some of the craziest racing, Dylan, I've seen, with the battle with lap traffic to the trouble coming off the corner exit, all the way to the situation on the restart. I haven't seen anything like that with Schwabauer in a long while, especially with that right as you're coming to the restart like that. It's absolutely unbelievable how things played out for this race. But for Ethan, he just played it out perfectly, where sometimes you just have to drive your way through the smoke and find the opening. And he found the opening to get this win.
He made it happen with a strategy call late to take some tires when there were only 8 drivers on that lead lap. And it ended up definitely helping him win that race. Well, thank you everybody for joining us here on RaceSpot TV and obviously ESTV when it does rebroadcast there. This has been Classic IndyCar Series racing at Michigan International Speedway. We've got a few races left in this season's calendar. Don't miss any of them. They're all right here on RaceSpot TV. Until then, from Justin Prince, Connor Rematic, myself, Dylan Coyle, take care, everybody.